The Exaggerated Importance of Thought by Jerome A. Anderson, read by Dave Marsland of Cardiff Theosophical Society. The Exaggerated Importance of Thought. Cognito ergo sum, wrote Descartes, after realizing the great truth that the source and meaning of life must be sought within. But never was a philosophical truth more perverted. Translated as I think, therefore I exist, it has been made a shibboleth by those who sail in shallow philosophical seas. A better translation would have been I think, therefore I am, thus linking life with the idea of eternal being rather than with an out-from transitory existence. Neither Descartes nor his best interpreters limited it to thought alone, but included it with other phases of consciousness. The original meaning of Descartes has thus been quite lost sight of, an attention directed wholly to thought as the sole phenomenon of existence, the one proof of life, the single and distinguishing attribute of the human soul. The error has grown and widened till it taints the entire philosophy of the West and is the direct cause of much of the uncertainty which surrounds existence after death. Thought, as most men conceive of it, is certainly destroyed by death, and having been taught to look upon man as a thinker only, and upon existence as depending upon thought, men have been driven either to deny existence after death altogether, as do modern materialists, or to set up a future life incongruous to and ethically disconnected with that of the present, as do modern Christians. The latter, indeed, have put forward many theories to bridge the ethical chasm between this life and the heaven or hell of the next, such as vicarious atonement, predestination, forgiveness, and other unjust and unjustifiable hypotheses, but all have signally failed when ethically examined. The error, originated in part at least in the manner indicated, has been perpetuated because of the exaggerated importance given to this earth life as counterbalancing eternity. Thought is of paramount importance to this life, but plays a minor part indeed in the drama of eternal life. It ceases to be the dominant faculty when man passes beyond the threshold of death. To one engaged in blasting, a drill is essential. To a farmer, some variant of the plough. So to the soul, while investigating the phenomena of an unexplained universe, the power to reason from the familiar to the unfamiliar, from the group of phenomena to the underlying law of which they are the apparently diverse expression, is absolutely essential. But just as the miner who turns his attention to extracting the gold from the quartz which he has blasted needs and uses other tools, so man, when he passes from this life of struggle and active comparison to one of rest and recuperation, lays aside his faithful servant reason to use other equally divine and now more important faculties of his soul. Thought is truly a divine faculty, but an exceedingly imperfect one at the present stage of man's evolution. Most of the wars and woes under which mankind suffers today are the direct result of faulty thinking, of drawing differing conclusions from the same or similar data. Nor is this fault found wholly among the ignorant. It invades the very highest philosophic reasoning and has led to such widely varying schools as idealists, materialists, theists, and pantheists, and so on, each of which supports its claims by the most searching appeal to reason of which it is capable. Holy wars mark the pathways of blind belief attempting to force its own conviction upon others. Philosophy has also its anathemas, while no two scientists are at one on any of the fundamentals of their respective departments. This lack of agreement ought to have warned man that thought was a somewhat frail reed upon which to lean, and to have led him to search for something more stable. But so ingrained is the idea of thought as the sine qua non of existence that with many, and indeed with most Western thinkers, cessation of thought is synonymous with the cessation of life. Existence without thought is to them absurd and even unthinkable. I think, therefore I exist, is the reading which they now give their shibboleth. This is not so strange when we consider that every phenomenon of life is intended to and does provoke thought, else we would be but as cattle upon the hills. For this reason, the very form of man is constructed so as to afford the largest cerebral development possible, as well as to ensure it the most complete protection from injury. Thought is compelled into activity by the incessant bombardment of the senses. Its dormant powers evoke nolens volens by the environment in which the body is placed. So intentionally hostile is this environment that man would speedily be swept from the earth but for thought. He must rely upon it at all times. It is his sword of which he has thrown away the scabbard, the one gift which enables him to have dominion over all the creatures of the earth, but its activity ceases at death. The magnificent cerebral development is destroyed. The bombardment of the senses ceases. Thought no longer is king, and we have to look to the energies of other faculties for evidence of the permanence of life. Even a superficial analysis of man's consciousness reveals its compound nature and shows conclusively that thought is only one of many faculties of the soul. Just as the prism breaks up the seeming unity and purity of the white light into 7 startlingly dissimilar and even opposite constituents, so analysis shows that which seemed but the one consciousness to be composed of similarly diversified and also apparently opposing faculties. As a fundamental faculty, we have the consciousness of life itself, the recognition of existence. There is no doubt that man shares this consciousness with all the lower kingdoms of nature. With Descartes, he may go to thought to prove that he exists, but he need not do so to feel that he does. Reason is entirely unnecessary to this recognition. Indeed, in the animal kingdom, it has been termed an instinct, because of the careful protection of their lives by animals devoid of reason. Even the sensitive plant shrinks from the touch lest its existence be endangered, and all nature cries out with one voice, "Let me live, let me live." It is the undifferentiated consciousness of the great ocean of being, in which all that is exists. It vibrates through the rock. It is quivering in the massive oak. Out of nothing, nothing can come. And the recognition of this first divine thrill of existence did not arise with man, nor with the kingdoms immediately beneath him. It is universal. It arose in and with the first faint flutter which attracted the atoms of stardust, if indeed it does not long antedate this. Its first expression may be one great cosmic hierarchical note, which perhaps voices an ecstasy that each succeeding differentiation in form may lessen rather than increase. The bliss of being is certainly not so perfect in man at present as in the lower unthinking kingdoms, for it is tainted with doubt and uncertainty. Its joys are recognized as fleeting, its course saddened by the knowledge of the gulf of apparent extinction, from which there is no possible escape, which awaits its seeming close. The animal takes no thought. It eats, drinks, and is contented. For it, tomorrow contains no hint of ceasing to be. Only when life is endangered does it seek to save it. While life flows its natural course, the animal simply is. With the animal it is I am, not I exist. It must be evident to the dullest comprehension that the consciousness of life, of being, pervades all nature, and that man holds no monopoly of it. It is also evident that he does not depend upon his fleeting, constantly changing body for its manifestation. He may do so, to be sure, for its manifestation in that body, but to remove this by death only causes the indestructible principle to change its vehicle for manifestation. For no manifested and therefore limited life can be except it have a material form to focus and limit that manifestation. Even illimitable space itself is but the body of God, its formlessness the silent testimony of a divinity above and beyond all form limitations. So that man, unless by some unthinkable process we suppose him either inside or outside of space, must always have a body, even though in the last differentiation this must be but the body of God, with whom he would then be at one. Compelled by death to abandon the gross physical body, he would still feel the same certainty of existence in inner and more ethereal bodies, until, if all matter we can comprehend be stripped off, his consciousness would exist in space and possess a body of which not even infinite power could deprive him.